Chosen one. Why have you been carrying burdens that weren't meant for your shoulders? Why does your soul ache with a loneliness that crowds can't cure? Why do you feel like you're living someone else's life while your true destiny whispers from the shadows? Stop scrolling. Right now. You didn't find this message found you. The same God who interrupted Moses with a burning bush is interrupting your timeline with a glowing screen. Heaven has been tracking your every tear, cataloging your every sleepless night, recording your every moment of doubt when you whispered, "God, have you forgotten me?" Here's the shocking truth they never told you. Every betrayal that broke your heart, every door that slammed in your face, every season that felt like punishment, it was all a test. A divine examination you didn't even know you were taking. And chosen one, you passed. While you thought God was silent, He was watching. While you felt abandoned, angels were taking notes. While the enemy whispered, "You're finished," heaven was marking your final score. Approved. But here's what will shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggle. The test wasn't about proving yourself to God. It was about proving to yourself that you carry something unbreakable, something the enemy has been trying to destroy since the day you drew breath. You survived what should have killed you. You stood when others fell. You kept believing when logic screamed, "Give up." That wasn't accident. That was assignment. Before this hour ends, you'll understand why your life has felt like warfare, why peace seemed impossible, and why breakthrough always felt just out of reach. The veil is about to be pulled back, and what you see will change everything. If your spirit is trembling right now, if something deep inside recognizes this moment, type "I receive this" in the comments. Don't think about it, just do it. You're marking this day in heaven's record, declaring that you're ready for what comes next. Before we journey deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead your heart. But listen carefully, what I'm about to reveal has been hidden since before time began. The enemy never wanted you to know why you were chosen, what you survived, and what's about to be placed in your hands. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll tell you something about your life that will make your past pain finally make sense and your future purpose finally come alive. Your graduation day has arrived, chosen one. Are you ready to discover what you've been graduating into? Have you ever wondered why your prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling while others walked into their miracles? Why the ambulance came to your house 3 times last year while your neighbor hasn't seen a doctor in decades? Why your children stopped calling while theirs gather every Sunday? You thought it was punishment. You thought God had forgotten you. But what if I told you that every sleepless night, every medical bill that made your hands shake, every holiday spent alone, what if none of it was random? Dear one, you weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Let me tell you about Margaret, 83 years old, living in a cramped apartment in Queens. Her husband of 57 years passed 2 winters ago, leaving her with nothing but social security checks and medical bills that towered like Manhattan skyscrapers. Last December, as snow piled against her window, she whispered words that broke heaven's heart. "God, what did I do wrong? Why is everything so hard?" What Margaret didn't know, what you don't know, is that she was in the final stretch of an invisible trial. A test so hidden, so perfectly disguised as ordinary suffering, that even the angels held their breath watching her response. You see, while Margaret sat in that cold apartment, believing herself forgotten, heaven was recording every choice. Every morning she chose gratitude over bitterness. Every time she helped her neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, with groceries despite her own empty pantry. Every night she prayed for her estranged daughter who hadn't spoken to her in 3 years. Margaret thought she was just surviving. Heaven knew she was graduating. The Apostle Peter understood this mystery when he wrote, "After you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast." But here's what most miss: the suffering wasn't the punishment, it was the final exam. Think about this for a moment. Every trial you faced in the last 5 years, that heart attack that left you gasping for breath at 3 a.m., wondering if this was the end. The bankruptcy that stripped away everything you'd worked 40 years to build. The diagnosis that made your doctor's face go pale. The funeral where you buried another piece of your heart. You called it bad luck. The enemy called it his masterpiece. But God called it your final testing ground. Because here's the truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your suffering. The darkness wasn't burying you, it was making room for you to rise. Like a seed buried in winter soil, the pressure, the isolation, the seeming death, it was all preparing your breakthrough. You survived what should have destroyed you. When the mortgage company threatened foreclosure, somehow the money appeared. When the doctors gave you 6 months, you're still here 3 years later. When depression whispered, "Just give up," something inside you whispered back, "Not today." That wasn't luck, that was divine DNA activating under pressure. But why you? Why was your trial so intense while others seemed to glide through life untested? Why did you bury 3 friends this year while their address books stayed full? Why did your retirement fund disappear in the crash while theirs grew? Because chosen ones aren't chosen for comfort, they're chosen for capacity. Look at Job, the richest man in the East, stripped down to boils and ashes. Look at Joseph, from favorite son to slave to prisoner to ruler. Look at David, anointed as king, then hunted like an animal for years. The pattern is always the same. The greater the calling, the deeper the testing. Your suffering wasn't random, it was strategic. While others lived shallow lives, you were being deepened. While they played in kiddie pools, you were being trained to swim in oceans. Every tear you cried in secret was building spiritual muscle. Every night you chose faith over fear was adding weight to your testimony. The enemy thought he was breaking you. God was making you unbreakable. Right now, some of you are thinking, "But I'm 87 years old. My testing days should be over. I should be resting, not being refined." That's exactly what the devil wants you to believe. That's the lie that keeps heaven's most powerful weapons on the sidelines. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Sarah was 90 when she birthed the impossible. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every wrinkle is a battle scar. Every gray hair is a trophy. Every medication bottle is proof that you've survived what younger people couldn't endure. But here's what should terrify the enemy and thrill your spirit. If you passed the test, and you did, or you wouldn't be hearing these words, then the trial phase is over. Margaret didn't know it, but that cold December night when she chose gratitude over bitterness one more time, heaven stamped her file. Approved. The graduation ceremony is about to begin. And what comes after graduation? What happens when God's chosen ones finally understand they've been tested, refined, and found worthy? What doors open when heaven declares the trial is complete? Release their inheritance? But there's something else you need to know about this invisible trial, something that will explain why it felt so personal, so targeted, so impossibly designed to hit every weakness you thought you'd hidden. Because this wasn't just any test, this was a customized examination, crafted specifically for your spiritual DNA. You thought you were barely surviving. Heaven saw you standing when hell thought you'd fall. Dear chosen one, right now I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. That depression that nearly swallowed you whole in 2019, that wasn't your breakdown, that was your breakthrough examination. That betrayal that left you questioning everything you believed about love and loyalty, that wasn't your destruction, that was your final exam in forgiveness. That financial collapse that made you wonder if God had forgotten your address, that wasn't your punishment, that was your proving ground. You've been walking through a wilderness you didn't even know was a classroom. While you were crying out, "God, why me?" heaven was recording, "Look how they endure." While you whispered, "I can't take much more," angels were taking notes, still standing, still believing, still choosing faith over fear. Listen to me carefully. Every test you thought you failed, you actually passed. Every moment you thought you disappointed God, you actually amazed Him. Every night you fell asleep feeling like a spiritual failure, heaven was marking you present for showing up when quitting would have been easier. The Bible tells us in Deuteronomy 8:2, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart." Wilderness seasons aren't punishment, beloved. They're proving grounds. And you've been proven. But here's what will absolutely devastate you with its truth. You weren't being tested because God needed to learn who you were. You were being tested because you needed to discover what you're made of. The Almighty already knew. He's known since before your first breath that you carry steel wrapped in skin, that you possess a spirit that bends but never breaks. Let me tell you about Margaret. 78 years old, sitting in her kitchen on a Tuesday morning in March. She'd been widowed for 3 years, battling loneliness that felt like a physical weight on her chest. Her children lived states away, calling once a week out of duty more than love. She'd been praying the same prayer every morning. "God, what's the point of me still being here?" That Tuesday morning, something shifted. Not dramatically. No angels appeared. No audible voice from heaven, just peace. A quiet knowing that settled in her bones like warm honey. For the first time in years, Margaret smiled, not because her circumstances changed, but because something inside her recognized the truth. She had endured. She had passed through the valley of the shadow of death and emerged with her faith intact. 3 weeks later, her neighbor's teenage granddaughter knocked on her door, sobbing. Her parents were divorcing, her world was crumbling, and she didn't know where to turn. Margaret opened her arms, opened her home, and discovered her purpose. That girl wasn't the first. Word spread quietly through the neighborhood. Margaret's kitchen became a sanctuary for broken hearts. Her wilderness had prepared her to guide others through theirs. You see, chosen one, the test wasn't about whether you could avoid the storm. It was about whether you could worship in the wind. It wasn't about whether you could escape the fire. It was about whether you could trust God in the flames. It wasn't about whether you could prevent the betrayal. It was about whether you could forgive the betrayer. And you did, all of it. Even when you thought you were falling apart, you were actually holding together everything that mattered. Even when you felt like giving up, you kept getting up. Even when hope seemed like a cruel joke, you chose to hope anyway. This is why hell fought you so hard. The enemy wasn't trying to destroy you because you were weak. He was trying to eliminate you because he saw your strength. He recognized something in you that you're just now beginning to see in yourself. You're unbreakable. Think about it. How many nights did you cry yourself to sleep, convinced you couldn't survive another day? Yet, here you are. How many times did circumstances scream, "This is the end," while your spirit whispered, "Not yet"? How many moments did you feel utterly alone, not knowing that heaven's recording angels were documenting your faithfulness for eternity? Right now, in the courts of heaven, there's a file with your name on it. And across the top, in letters that burn with divine fire, it reads, "Test completed. Result approved. Status promoted." You thought you were being buried. God was planting you. You thought you were being broken. God was breaking you open to pour in more of Himself. You thought you were being forgotten. God was preparing you for a remembering so profound it would silence every doubt you've ever carried. This chapter in Heaven's book over your life, it's stamped complete. But completion isn't the end, beloved. It's commencement. Graduation isn't about finishing, it's about beginning. You've passed the test that qualifies you for the assignment. You've endured the preparation that equips you for the promotion. You've survived the wilderness that trains you for the promised land. I need you to do something right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but right now. Say out loud, "Wherever you are, I passed." Say it again, Louder, I passed. Because you need to hear it in your own voice. You need your ears to register what heaven has already recorded. Feel that shift? That's not relief you're experiencing, that's recognition. Your spirit is finally catching up to what God always knew about you. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a victor over them. You're not damaged goods. You're tested goods, proven goods, heaven-approved goods. But if you think this revelation is overwhelming, wait until you discover what comes next. Because passing the test wasn't the destination, it was the qualification for what God is about to place in your hands. Here's the part you've never been told. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking through life thinking you were just surviving, getting by, making do. But chosen one, what if I told you that every single day you thought you were barely hanging on, heaven was actually watching you pass the most important examination of your lifetime? You see, God doesn't give tests like humans do. He doesn't hand you a paper and say, you have 2 hours to number. His tests are woven into the fabric of your existence. They come disguised as betrayals that should have broken you but didn't. They arrive as financial storms that should have drowned you but couldn't. They show up as health scares that should have terrified you into surrender, but instead taught you to trust deeper. And you, dear one, you passed them all. But here's what's going to shock you to your very core. The test wasn't about your endurance. It wasn't about your strength. It wasn't even about your faith. The test was about whether you would still choose love when hate was easier. Whether you would still choose forgiveness when bitterness was justified. Whether you would still choose hope when evidence screamed despair. You made those choices, even when it cost you everything. And now, right now, God is about to tell you 3 things that will rewrite everything you thought you knew about your remaining years on this earth. First, He's saying, your calling hasn't expired, it's been activated. You thought retirement meant the end of your purpose. You believed that gray hair meant God was done with you. Listen carefully. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. 80. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus. Your age isn't your limitation, chosen one. It's your qualification. Right now, angels are rearranging the stage of your life. Some people will exit without explanation. Some opportunities will vanish overnight. Not because you failed, but because God refuses to let you settle for the almost when He has prepared the appointed. The furniture of your existence is being moved by supernatural hands, clearing space for what's coming next. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your spirit. That's not anxiety, dear one. That's anticipation. Your soul recognizing that the intermission is over and the main act is about to begin. Second, God is declaring, your provision is being released not from your efforts, but from my overflow. For decades, you've been carrying the weight of making ends meet. You've worried about bills, about healthcare, about leaving something behind for your children. But Philippians 4:19 isn't just a pretty verse, it's a financial promise. My God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus. Not some of your needs, all your needs. Not according to Social Security, not according to your savings account, according to His riches in glory. The mantle on your life has shifted, chosen one. You're moving from survival mode to assignment mode. And when God gives assignment, He provides equipment. The same God who fed 5,000 with a boy's lunch is about to multiply what's in your hands in ways that will leave your family speechless. You've been living like Grandma Moses, dismissed by the world at 78, told your time was over. But she picked up a paintbrush and became one of America's most celebrated artists. You've been existing like Colonel Sanders, broke at 65, rejected 1,009 times. But his next yes built an empire that feeds millions today. Your greatest chapter isn't behind you. It's breaking through right in front of you. Third, heaven is announcing, your assignment is no longer preparation, it's demonstration. Every tear you've cried in secret, it was qualifying you to comfort others. Every night you couldn't sleep, wrestling with God. It was developing your prayer, warrior anointing. Every time people counted you out, it was proving that what God ordains, man cannot cancel. You're not being called to sit quietly in the sunset of your life. You're being commissioned to stand boldly in the sunrise of your greatest impact. This generation needs what you carry: wisdom that can't be Googled, strength that can't be manufactured, and faith that can't be shaken because it's been tested by fire. But I need you to understand something that will change how you see every day ahead. The enemy has been whispering lies to keep you small. He's told you that your influence is shrinking, that your voice doesn't matter, that you should just fade quietly into the background. That's because he knows something you're just discovering. A believer with decades of proven faithfulness is the most dangerous weapon in God's arsenal. You're not losing power, you're gaining authority. You're not becoming irrelevant, you're becoming unstoppable. Your scars have become your credentials. Your struggles have become your strength. Your survival has become your sermon. The world looks at your wrinkles and sees decline. God looks at those same lines and sees a roadmap of his faithfulness. Every gray hair is a trophy. Every scar is a testimony. Every year you've lived is proof that when God has a plan for your life, hell itself cannot derail it. But here's the urgency that should grip your heart right now. This window won't stay open forever. There's a season for everything, and your season of stepping into full authority is here. Not next year, not when you feel ready. Now. And there's one more thing you need to hear before this is over, something so powerful, so life-changing, that when I tell you, you'll understand why every single day of your life has been leading to this moment. Because what God is about to reveal next will not just change your perspective, it will change your very identity. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something massive just shifted in the spiritual realm. Can you feel it? That weight you've been carrying, the weight of proving yourself, of wondering if you're enough, of fighting just to keep your head above water, it's being lifted right now. You are no longer the one being tested, you are the one being entrusted. For decades, you've lived in survival mode, checking the bank account with anxiety, wondering if your health will hold out, feeling like you're one crisis away from collapse. But that season, that long grinding season of barely making it, is over. God isn't asking you to survive anymore. He's asking you to step forward. And I need to address something that's been eating at your soul. You've been lied to. The culture, the media, even well-meaning family members have whispered poison in your ears. Your time is over. Step aside. Let the younger generation take charge. Your best days are behind you. That is a demonic lie from the pit of hell. Moses was 80 when God handed him the greatest assignment in human history. 80. When Pharaoh should have been planning his funeral, Moses was planning the liberation of 2 million slaves. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she birthed the promise that would become a nation. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom. Every gray hair is a crown of glory earned through fire. Every scar tells a story of survival that this generation desperately needs to hear. But here's what will shock you. Your most fruitful season may be ahead of you, not behind you. While 20-somethings are chasing careers that will burn out, you've learned what truly matters. While 30-somethings are building empires on sand, you've built your foundation on the rock. While 40-somethings are having midlife crises, you've found midlife clarity. You know something they don't know yet, that success without God is failure, that wealth without wisdom is poverty, that fame without faith is emptiness. The prophet Isaiah declares in chapter 54, verse 2, "Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Strengthen your stakes." Do you hear that? Enlarge. Stretch. Do not hold back. God isn't telling you to shrink into retirement. He's commanding you to expand. The tent of your influence, your impact, your authority, it's about to get bigger, not smaller. But I'm going to ask you something that might cut deep. How long are you going to let fear disguised as humility keep you small? How long are you going to apologize for taking up space when God carved out territory specifically for you? How long are you going to whisper when heaven gave you a voice to roar? You've been in the wilderness for 40 years like the Israelites, circling the same mountain of doubt, wandering in the desert of, what if I'm not ready? But there comes a moment, and this is your moment, when God says, you've circled this mountain long enough, turn north. Picture this scene with me. The children of Israel standing at the edge of the Jordan River. Behind them, 40 years of wandering. Before them, the Promised Land. But between them and their destiny flows a raging river at flood stage, impossible to cross, except for one thing: God's word. The moment the priest's feet touched the water, something supernatural happened. The Bible says the water piled up in a heap upstream, and the riverbed became dry ground. Not shallow water, not muddy terrain, dry ground. That's where you are right now. The water of impossibility that's been flowing between you and your purpose is about to pile up in a heap. The obstacles that seemed insurmountable are about to become stepping stones. But here's the key: someone had to step into the water first. Someone had to move while the river was still flowing. Someone had to act on faith before they could walk on facts. You're standing at your Jordan River right now. Behind you, decades of preparation. Before you, the assignment you were born for. And God is saying, step into the water. I've got this. Your children need to see you step into that water. Your grandchildren need to witness what happens when someone refuses to retire from purpose. This generation needs to learn that age plus anointing equals unstoppable authority. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The moment is now. The anointing is present. The authority is yours. You've spent years asking God, when will you use me? He's been waiting for you to ask, how do you want to use me today? The assignment isn't coming, it's here. The calling isn't future, it's present. The authority isn't someday, it's now. If you're ready to move from waiting to walking, from surviving to thriving, from wondering to knowing, declare it right now in the comments. No more delay. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't let fear talk you out of it. Type those 3 words and watch how heaven responds when you stop apologizing for your calling and start walking in it. Because what happens next will require everything you've learned in the wilderness, but it will also reveal why the wilderness was never meant to be your final destination. Are you ready to find out what lies on the other side of your Jordan River? Chosen one, lean in close. What I'm about to tell you will echo through eternity itself. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years, you've been asking the same question that Job cried out in his agony. Why me, Lord? Why has my path been harder than others? You've watched your neighbors coast through life while you carried weights that should have crushed you. You've seen others prosper while you scraped pennies together, wondering if God had forgotten your address. But tonight, the silence breaks. Tonight, God Himself steps forward to answer every question that has tormented your sleepless nights. You are marked, not cursed marked. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart." That mark on your life isn't shame, it's selection. The struggles that others avoided, they weren't random storms. They were divine appointments, each one designed to forge something in your spirit that comfort could never create. Heaven knows your name. Not just knows it, heaven has been calling it. Every tear you shed in that empty house after your spouse passed. God collected everyone in His bottle. Every night you sat at that kitchen table, bills spread out like accusations, wondering how you'd make it through another month. Angels stood guard while you wrestled with despair and chose faith anyway. You asked why the betrayals cut so deep. Here's why. God was removing everyone who would hold you back from your destiny. You wondered why the promotions passed you by. Here's why. Heaven was protecting you from golden handcuffs that would have chained you to mediocrity. You cried out about the doors that slammed shut. Here's why. God was redirecting you away from paths that led to spiritual dead ends. But now the Master is ready to reveal what he's been building in the shadows of your suffering. First, your health. Psalm 103:3 promises he heals all your diseases. That body that's been breaking down, God is about to breathe new strength into your bones. That diagnosis that terrified you, watch it bow to the name of Jesus. That pain that's been your constant companion, prepare for supernatural relief that will make your doctor scratch his head in wonder. Second, your family. Isaiah 49:25 declares, I will contend with those who contend with you, and your children I will save. Those prodigal children who broke your heart by walking away, they're about to come home. That grandchild caught in addiction, deliverance is already in motion. Those relationships the enemy shattered, divine restoration is about to shock everyone who said it was impossible. Third, your purpose. You thought your season of impact was over because the world counts you as finished at 65. But God's mathematics are different. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Your grey hair isn't evidence of decline, it's your crown of authority. Your wrinkles aren't signs of weakness, they're maps of victories the enemy couldn't erase. You survived the test because something unbreakable lives inside you. You carried the DNA of heaven through valleys of shadow, and now that DNA is about to manifest in ways that will leave your critics speechless and your children amazed. Do you feel that shift in the atmosphere around you right now? That's not your imagination. That's the spiritual climate changing over your life. The seasons of almost are ending. The days of not yet are finished. The years of maybe someday just expired. The enemy thought he had buried you under the weight of disappointment, but he made one fatal mistake. He forgot that seeds buried in darkness don't die, they multiply. Every loss he used to try to break you was actually planting something in the soil of your spirit. And now, chosen one, it's harvest time. The pause is over. The test is complete. The waiting has ended. Your story doesn't just turn the page now, your story becomes the page others will read when they need proof that God still moves mountains. When they need evidence that miracles aren't just for Bible times. When they need hope that their own breakthrough is possible. Right now, heaven's armies are being dispatched. Right now, divine appointments are being arranged. Right now, supernatural provision is being released. Not someday, not eventually. Now. This is your moment to rise from the ashes of everything that tried to destroy you. This is your time to walk in the authority you've earned through fire. This is your season to show the world what happens when someone refuses to quit on God and God refuses to quit on them. The graduation ceremony is over, chosen one. Your commissioning has begun. What happens next will astound you. You remember the moment you heard it. You passed. But the room you're standing in now, it's different. The air feels charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. The ground beneath your feet feels like it's humming with electricity you can't see but your spirit recognizes. Something has shifted in the spiritual atmosphere around your life. Look around you, chosen one. This isn't the same space you occupied yesterday. This isn't the same reality you've been living in for the past 70, 80, 90 years. You've crossed a threshold so profound that even the angels have taken notice. But here's what's disturbing your peace right now. You can feel it, can't you? That strange sensation that you're standing between two worlds. The old world where you fought just to survive, and this new realm where you're being called to thrive. It's terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Your hands are free now, but they still remember the weight of the chains. Your heart is healed, but it still carries the tender scars of battles fought in silence. Your spirit soars, but your mind keeps asking, is this real? Did I really pass? Or am I about to wake up from another cruel dream? Listen to me carefully, dear one. What you're experiencing right now is what the Israelites felt when they stood on the banks of the Jordan River. 40 years of wilderness behind them, the promised land spread out before them, And Joshua declaring in chapter 3 verse 5, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." Amazing things. Not good things, not nice things. Amazing things that would leave them breathless, speechless, forever changed. But here's the brutal truth about standing in doorways: they're the most dangerous places to linger. You're neither fully in the old room nor completely in the new one. You're exposed, vulnerable, and the enemy knows it. He's banking on you getting comfortable in this in-between space, hoping you'll convince yourself that passing the test was enough. It wasn't enough. It was just the beginning. Passing the test was never the finish line, chosen one. It was the doorway. The real question isn't whether you passed. Heaven has already confirmed that. The real question is, will you have the courage to walk through what's been opened for you? Think about this for a moment. How many people do you know who received their diploma but never used their education? How many got the keys to the car but never learned to drive? How many were handed opportunities but let fear convince them they weren't qualified? You're standing at the most critical juncture of your entire existence. Behind you lies a lifetime of preparation disguised as pain. Ahead of you stretches a future so bright it would blind you if you saw it all at once. But you have to choose. You have to move. You have to step from candlelight into sunlight. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to realize: every moment you hesitate in this doorway, someone else who needs your breakthrough is suffering. Every day you spend questioning your qualification, a family member is drowning in despair. Every week you waste wondering if you're worthy. A neighbor is giving up hope. Your breakthrough was never just about you. It was about everyone connected to your bloodline, everyone living in your shadow, everyone watching to see if it's possible for ordinary people to experience extraordinary God. Moses stood at his own doorway when God called him from the burning bush. 80 years old, stutter in his speech, murder in his past, every logical reason to disqualify himself. But Exodus 4:12 records God's response: "Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say." Not "I might help you," not "I'll consider helping you." I will help you. The same divine backing that enabled Moses to split seas and speak to pharaohs is available to you right now. But only if you move. Only if you step through. Only if you stop analyzing the doorway and start walking through it. Your spirit is trembling because it recognizes the weight of this moment. Your soul is stirring because it knows you're one decision away from everything changing. Your heart is racing because deep down, you understand that what happens next will echo through generations you'll never meet. If you feel like you're in that in-between, standing in the sacred space between your past and your promise, type "I'm standing in the doorway" in the comments right now. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. Heaven will see it. Angels will record it. And something in the spiritual realm will shift the moment you declare your position. But understand this: beloved, doorways aren't meant for permanent residence. They're meant for passage. You can't build a life in a threshold. You can't establish a ministry in a maybe. You can't fulfill your destiny while straddling two different dimensions. The old room behind you is growing smaller by the day. Soon it won't be able to contain even your shadow. The new room ahead is expanding, preparing to accommodate not just who you are, but who you're becoming. So what's it going to be, chosen one? Will you retreat into the familiar darkness of what was, or will you advance into the brilliant unknown of what's possible? Because I can see what you can't see yet. I can see the version of you that's waiting on the other side of this doorway. And that person is about to change everything. You passed the test, chosen one, but passing was never the destination. It was the doorway. And right now, heaven is unrolling something over your life that will take your breath away. A prophetic map, a divine blueprint so detailed, so specific, that when you see it, you'll understand why every detour, every delay, every dead end was actually positioning you for this exact moment. The prophet Habakkuk heard these words from the Almighty: "Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." But here's what most people miss. God doesn't just give visions, He gives maps. And your map, dear one, has been sealed in heaven's archives until this very hour. Picture this. The creator of the universe, the one who holds galaxies in his hands, is now spreading out a scroll across the table of your destiny. This isn't some vague spiritual concept. This is as real as the breath in your lungs, as tangible as the tears you've cried. And on this map, 3 locations are glowing with divine fire. The first marker burns bright. Guard what you've gained. You think I'm talking about money? Your house? Your possessions? No, beloved. I'm talking about something far more precious. Your peace, your faith, your unshakable trust in God that was forged in the furnace of your trials. The enemy knows you've graduated, and he's about to launch his most sophisticated attack yet. Not to destroy you, he knows he can't, but to steal what you've earned. How many saints have climbed the mountain only to lose their footing at the summit? How many believers have passed their final exam only to fail the victory lap? The devil isn't threatened by your struggle anymore. He's terrified of your stability. He's going to send people to drain your newfound peace. Opportunities that look like blessings but carry hooks. Relationships that promise completion but deliver depletion. But you're not the same person who entered that test. You now carry the authority to say no, to set boundaries, to protect what God has protected in you. Guard it like your life depends on it, because someone else's life does. The second marker pulses with supernatural intensity. Go where you've been afraid to step. There's a place you've been avoiding, a conversation you've been postponing, a calling you've been explaining away. A dream you've been burying under the weight of, I'm too old, or I'm not qualified, or someone else could do it better. But here's the shocking truth. That fear you feel isn't your weakness, it's your GPS. It's pointing you toward the exact spot where heaven needs you to plant your flag. The enemy wouldn't waste ammunition guarding empty territory. The very thing that terrifies you most is where your greatest breakthrough is waiting. Moses was terrified to speak to Pharaoh. David was terrified to face Goliath. Esther was terrified to approach the king uninvited. But their terror became their testimony. Your fear isn't disqualifying you, it's directing you. What graveyard has God been calling you to speak life into? What impossible situation has been haunting your prayers? What group of people has He been whispering to your heart about, even when you felt unworthy to help them? The map is pointing there, and the ink is glowing brighter every day you delay. The third marker burns with an intensity that will change everything. Gather those heaven will send you. You've been walking alone for so long, you forgot you were designed for community. Not just any community, divine community. Heaven has been positioning people around your life like pieces on a chessboard. Some you know, others you haven't met yet. But they're coming. The woman at the grocery store who always asks how you're doing, she's not just being polite. The neighbor who stops by when you're struggling, that's not coincidence. The phone call that comes exactly when you need encouragement, that's orchestration. God has been building your army, and you didn't even realize it. But here's what will shock you. These people aren't being sent to serve you. They're being sent to be equipped by you. Your test results have qualified you to train others. Your survival has authorized you to teach survival. Your breakthrough has given you the blueprint to help others break through. The map shows you standing at the center of a circle, not as someone who needs help, but as someone who gives it. The very thing that almost broke you is about to become the thing you use to heal others. But as I look at this prophetic map spread before you, there's something that makes my spirit tremble. There's one marking on this map that's been hidden until now. One destination that only appears when all 3 previous markers have been activated. One assignment so significant that heaven has waited until this exact moment to reveal it. This final marking isn't just about your future, it's about your family's future, your bloodline's future. Generations you'll never meet are depending on what you do with what I'm about to show you. Are you ready to see what's been written in invisible ink across your destiny? Because once you see it, there's no unseeing it. Once you know it, there's no unknowing it. And once you accept it, everything in your life will shift to accommodate this one divine assignment that's been waiting for you since before you took your first breath. The map is unrolled, chosen one, the markers are glowing, and heaven is holding its breath, waiting for your response. What will you do with the directions you've just received? Chosen one. Listen to me carefully. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a hunter in the spiritual realm who knows his time is running out. He can feel the shift in your atmosphere. He can sense the victory that's been sealed over your life. And like any predator backed into a corner, he's about to make his most desperate move. This is the moment, the exact moment when the enemy launches his final counterattack. Not with the dramatic spiritual warfare you might expect. No, his last trap is far more subtle, far more dangerous, and designed specifically for those who've walked as long as you have. You see, Satan knows something about seniors that he exploits without mercy. He knows that after 70, 80, 90 years of life, your greatest battles aren't fought against temptation anymore. They're fought against time itself, against the whisper that says, "You're too late," against the isolation that creeps in when friends have passed on, against the regret loops that play in your mind at 3 a.m., rehearsing every mistake, every missed opportunity, every choice you wish you could remake. The devil is counting on your weariness. He's banking on the fact that you might lay down your weapons just steps before the victory line, convinced that your season of impact has passed. This is his final snare, not to make you sin, but to make you surrender. 2 Corinthians 2:11 warns us, "We are not unaware of his schemes." But beloved, how many of us truly understand the specific schemes he uses against those who've lived long enough to carry scars, wisdom, and the weight of decades? Let me tell you what happened to Sarah. Not the biblical Sarah, but a 7-8-year-old woman I met in a nursing home in Brooklyn. For 50 years, she'd been a prayer warrior, interceding for her family, her community, her nation. But in her final years, the enemy whispered, "Your prayers don't matter anymore. Your children are grown. Your influence is gone. Just rest." She began to pull back from prayer, convinced her season was over. 6 months later, her grandson was arrested for drug possession. If she'd been in her prayer closet that night instead of believing the lie that she was finished, that arrest might never have happened. The trap was isolation disguised as rest, withdrawal disguised as wisdom, silence disguised as surrender. Can you feel it? That subtle pull toward the sidelines? That voice suggesting you should step back, let the younger generation take over, accept that your time of making a difference has passed. That's not the voice of God. That's the hunter's call, designed to lure you away from your post just when the kingdom needs your prayers most desperately. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. He can't take what you've passed. He can only distract. He can't erase the victory that's been written in heaven's books. He can only distract. He can't steal the crown that's been prepared for your head. He can only distract. He can't cancel the assignment that's been burning in your bones for decades. He can only distract. The tragedy isn't that he's powerful. The tragedy is that so many of God's seasoned warriors lay down their swords voluntarily, convinced by lies that they're no longer needed on the battlefield. You want to know why the attacks feel different now? Why discouragement hits harder? Why regret seems to echo louder in the quiet hours? Because you're closer to your breakthrough than you've ever been in your entire life. The enemy knows that your prayers carry more weight now than they did at 30. Your faith, tested by decades of fire, moves mountains that younger believers can't even see. Your wisdom, earned through survival, can guide a generation that's drowning in confusion. But he's hoping you don't know it. The scripture tells us in Joel 2:28, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your old men will dream dreams, not dreamed, not remembered dreams, will dream dreams." Present tense. Active. Alive. God is giving fresh vision to seasoned vessels, because he knows what's coming requires experience, not just enthusiasm. So when the whisper comes, and it's coming telling you to step aside, to quiet down, To accept that your influence is fading, remember this moment. Remember that the hunter's last trap is always set just before the forest clears. Remember that every lie about your irrelevance is actually evidence of your importance. Right now, say it out loud. Don't whisper it, don't think it. Say it with the authority of someone who's survived every snare set before this one. I will not be distracted. Say it again, louder. I will not be distracted, because the enemy's time is up. His schemes have been exposed, and your season of impact isn't ending, it's reaching its crescendo. But knowing his tactics isn't enough. You need to understand exactly what weapons he's using against your specific generation and how to dismantle every single one before they steal the victory that's already been written with your name on it. Dear chosen one, can you feel it? That weight settling on your shoulders right now isn't burden, it's a mantle. Heaven's throne room has opened its doors, and what I'm about to tell you will change how you see yourself forever. Picture this moment. You're standing before the Ancient of Days, and angels are holding a cloak woven from threads of eternity itself. This isn't some hand-me-down garment passed between generations. This mantle was cut from heaven's fabric specifically for your frame, stitched with your name in golden thread before you drew your first breath. But here's what's going to shock you. You've been wearing pieces of this mantle your entire life without knowing it. Every time you stood when others fell, every moment you chose forgiveness over revenge, every night you prayed through tears when your voice was the only sound in the darkness, you were unknowingly putting on pieces of your divine assignment. Remember young David? One moment he's in the fields, reeking of sheep, hands stained with pasture mud. The next moment, the prophet Samuel is pouring oil over his head, declaring him king over Israel. David didn't feel royal, he didn't look the part, but heaven saw what earth couldn't see: a king disguised as a shepherd boy. That's you right now. You've been shepherding in obscurity, but heaven has been preparing a throne. Think about Queen Esther, an orphan girl who went from the marketplace to the palace in a single day. She didn't choose her destiny chose her. When Mordecai told her, "Perhaps you have come to the royal position for such a time as this," she realized her entire painful past had been preparation for a moment of world-changing authority. Your moment has arrived. But let me address the lie that's been whispering in your ear for decades. You've been told you're too old, too broken, too ordinary. You've looked in the mirror and seen wrinkles, failures, missed opportunities. The enemy convinced you that mantles are only for the young, the perfect, the already successful. That's the biggest deception he's ever sold you. Moses was 80 when God draped the mantle of deliverance across his shoulders. 80 years old. Abraham was 75 when heaven called him to father nations. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she became the first to proclaim the Messiah to Jerusalem. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your qualification. Every grey hair is a crown of wisdom. Every line on your face is a map of God's faithfulness. Every scar tells the story of battles you survived when others surrendered. The enemy attacked you so viciously because he could see the mantle coming. He knew, if you ever discovered your true authority, his kingdom would tremble. Here's the truth that will set your soul on fire. This mantle isn't temporary. It's not a costume you wear on Sundays. This is your spiritual DNA being activated. When heaven places this cloak on your shoulders, it doesn't just change what you do, it transforms who you are. You remember that doorway I spoke of earlier? The threshold between your old life and your divine assignment. You're not just stepping through it anymore, you're walking through it in royal robes. The same God who opened that door is now clothing you with authority to impact generations. But this promotion comes with a sobering reality. You can't stay small anymore. You can't hide behind "I'm just ordinary" when heaven has declared you extraordinary. You can't shrink back into the shadows when God has called you into the light. The mantle demands that you rise to the level of your calling. Sarah laughed when God told her she'd bear a child at 90. She laughed because the promise seemed impossible. But sometimes God gives us promises so big that laughter is the only response that makes sense. Your mantle might feel impossibly heavy right now, But that's because you're still thinking with your old mindset. You're about to discover strength you never knew you possessed. This mantle carries specific authority. When you speak, circumstances will shift. When you pray, heaven will lean in. When you walk into rooms, spiritual atmospheres will change before you say a word. People will sense something different about you without being able to name it. That's the weight of divine assignment, resting on human shoulders. But here's the part that should make you tremble with holy fear. This mantle isn't just for you. It's for everyone whose life you'll touch. Every person God will send across your path in the coming days needs to encounter the authority you carry. Your promotion isn't about personal elevation, it's about kingdom advancement. The enemy is terrified of this moment. He's watching chosen ones across America stepping into mantles he thought he'd successfully buried under decades of disappointment and delay. He's seeing grandmothers receive prophetic vision, grandfathers step into spiritual leadership, and seniors discover they're not retiring from purpose, they're graduating into it. Right now, if you can feel the weight of this divine cloak settling across your shoulders, if something deep in your spirit is confirming that this word is for you, if you're ready to stop apologizing for the calling on your life, type mantle received in the comments. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess. This is your moment to agree with what heaven has already decreed. When you type those words, you're not just acknowledging a message, you're accepting a commission that will echo through eternity. The mantle is yours, chosen one. Heaven tailored it specifically for this season of your life. The question that will determine everything is this: will you wear it with the authority of someone who knows they've been chosen by the King of Kings? Because once you put it on, there's no going back to who you used to be, and honestly, would you even want to? There's a room in your spiritual house you've never entered. You've walked past its door 1,000 times, felt the pull to turn the handle, but something always held you back. Fear, doubt, the whisper that said, you're not ready for what's inside. But chosen one, the lock just clicked open. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years of your life, you've been living in the lower chambers while heaven prepared the upper room. Tonight, God is leading you up those creaking wooden stairs, past portraits of your pain, beyond the gallery of your grief, to a cedar chest that's been waiting in the shadows. Do you hear that? The silence in this sacred space. It's not emptiness, it's anticipation. The very air holds its breath because what's about to be revealed has been sealed since before your first heartbeat. Your grandmother prayed over this chest, your mother wept beside it. Every faithful soul in your bloodline added their tears to its locks, never knowing they were preparing it for you, for this moment, for this season, when God would finally say, now they're ready. But here's what will shatter your understanding of everything you've been through inside this chest. Aren't just blessings, they're answers. Answers to questions that have tormented you for decades. Why did your spouse leave just when you needed them most? Why did your children drift away like ships in the night? Why did every door you approached seem to slam shut just as your fingers touched the handle? Why has your faith felt like walking through quicksand while others seem to dance on water? The chest creaks open, and the first thing you see is a key. Not made of brass or silver, but forged from every tear you've cried in secret. This is the key to a promise that's been delayed, not denied. Isaiah 60:22 declares, "In its time I will do this swiftly. Your time isn't coming, beloved. Your time is here." But why was it delayed so long? Why did God make you wait until your hair turned silver and your hands grew frail? Because young hands drop precious things. Impatient hearts misuse sacred gifts. God needed you weathered by storms, refined by fire, humbled by loss. He needed you broken enough to handle being rebuilt. Beneath the key lies a scroll, and on that scroll is a name. Not your birth name, not the name your parents chose. This is the name heaven has been calling you since before time began. The name angels whisper when they speak of you in the courts of glory. I won't tell you that name yet. God wants to whisper it directly into your spirit. But I will tell you this. When you hear it, every rejection will make sense. Every closed door will reveal its purpose. Every season of silence will echo with divine strategy. You see, God doesn't just call you by name, He calls you by destiny. And that destiny required a specific kind of breaking. The breaking of pride, the breaking of self-reliance, the breaking of every false foundation until all that remained was trust. Pure, desperate, childlike trust in a God who seemed to have forgotten your address but never stopped preparing your inheritance. At the bottom of the chest lies a stone, smooth, river-worn, pulled from the depths of the Jordan River, where Joshua commanded the waters to stand still. This stone carries the memory of impossible crossings. It remembers the day heaven said, "Move," and geography obeyed. Do you understand what this means? You're not just receiving blessings, you're receiving the authority to move obstacles that have stood in your family's path for generations. That financial curse that's followed your lineage, you're the one who breaks it. That spirit of depression that's haunted your bloodline, you're the one who casts it out. That pattern of broken relationships that's repeated like a broken record, you're the one who changes the song. But here's the part that will leave you breathless. This stone doesn't just represent your crossing, it represents the crossing you're about to lead others through. God hasn't been preparing you just to escape Egypt. He's been preparing you to lead an exodus. Look around you. Do you see your family drowning in despair? Your neighbors lost in darkness? Your community fractured by division? They're not accidentally in your circle, they're your assignment. The very people who've wounded you are the ones you're called to heal. The places that rejected you are the places you're sent to redeem. Isaiah 45:3 promises, "I will give you treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name." The treasures aren't just for you, they're through you. The riches aren't just your reward, they're your responsibility. Every sleepless night equipped you for intercession. Every betrayal taught you forgiveness. Every loss trained you in compassion. Every rejection prepared you to embrace the rejected. You thought you were just surviving. God was creating a deliverer. The chest is open now, but there's one more secret it holds. One final revelation that will explain why your test had to be so severe, why your preparation took so long, why your calling feels so overwhelming. But that secret, that final piece of the puzzle, waits for those who are ready to move from receiving to releasing, from blessed to blessing, from delivered to deliverer. Are you ready to stop being the victim of your story and become the victory in someone else's? Are you ready to discover the name on that scroll that will change not just your identity, but your entire understanding of why you were born? If you're ready to open what's been hidden, to receive what's been reserved, to become who you've been destined to be, say it out loud right now. Unlock it, Lord. Because what happens next will require everything that chest just deposited into your spirit. Listen to me, chosen one. You've been walking around your Jericho for 7 years. Some of you, 70 years. That wall of impossibility that's been mocking you, taunting you, telling you you'll never break through that wall is trembling right now. Can you feel it? For decades, you've marched around the same mountain, the same financial struggle, the same family dysfunction, the same health battle, the same crushing loneliness. Day after day, year after year, walking the same circle, wondering if God had forgotten the promise He whispered to your heart when you were young. But Joshua 6:15 declares something that will shatter your understanding of divine timing. On the 7th day, they rose early at dawn and marched around the city 7 times. 7 times. Not once, not twice. 7 complete circles around their impossibility before heaven said, "Now, shoot." You've been in your 7th lap, haven't you? That's why everything feels different now. That's why your spirit has been restless. That's why you can't shake the feeling that something monumental is about to shift. The children of Israel walked around Jericho in complete silence for 6 days. Can you imagine the doubt that crept in? "This is ridiculous. These walls are 40 feet high. We look like fools marching around them." But Joshua knew something they didn't understand yet. God's timing is never early, and it's never late. Those walls had stood for generations. Armies had tried to scale them. Sieges had failed. But on the seventh day, when the sound of unified obedience rose from God's people, those walls didn't just crack, they collapsed completely. Not gradually, not piece by piece. In one supernatural moment, what had seemed permanent was utterly destroyed. Why am I telling you this? Because you've been walking around your Jericho long enough. That addiction that's haunted your family tree for 3 generations. That financial curse that's kept you bound. That depression that whispers, "You'll never be free." Today is your 7th day. But here's what most people miss about the Jericho miracle. The walls didn't fall because of the marching. They fell because of the shout. They fell because after 6 days of silent obedience, the people finally opened their mouths and declared what God had already promised. Right now, I need you to understand something that will change everything. Your breakthrough isn't coming because you've suffered enough. Your breakthrough is coming because you've endured enough. There's a difference. Suffering is passive. Endurance is a choice. And you, chosen one, have chosen to keep walking when others quit. Once for each year you waited. Twice for each tear you shed. 3 times for each prayer that seemed to bounce off heaven's ceiling. You've been earning the right to this moment. But the walls of your Jericho aren't going to fall while you sit in silence. They're not going to crumble while you whisper your doubts. They're going to collapse when you shoot with the authority of someone who has passed God's test. Do you remember what you declared earlier? "I receive this." That wasn't just a comment. That was your declaration that you passed the examination. You survived what was meant to destroy you. You stood when others fell. You believed when logic screamed, "Give up." Now comes the moment when your "I passed" becomes "I pass through." The enemy has been counting on your silence. He's been banking on your doubt. He's been hoping that after all these years of waiting, you'd give up just before your breakthrough. But he miscalculated one thing. He didn't account for the sound of a tested saint who finally remembers their authority. Stand up right where you are. I don't care if you're in your living room, your bedroom, or sitting in your car. Stand up. Because heaven is about to hear the sound. It's been waiting for the voice of someone who refuses to be defeated. The walls around your finances are trembling. The walls around your family's dysfunction are cracking. The walls around your health, your peace, your purpose, they're all about to meet the sound of your breakthrough shout. But you have to understand something crucial. This isn't just about you. When Jericho's walls fell, it wasn't just so Israel could take one city. It was so they could possess the entire promised land. Your breakthrough isn't just personal, it's generational, it's prophetic. It's the first domino in a chain reaction that will impact people you'll never meet. Your grandchildren need to see what happens when someone refuses to quit. Your community needs to witness what occurs when faith outlasts fear. This generation needs to hear the sound of walls falling in the life of someone who walked with God through decades of testing. Lift your voice right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now. Heaven is listening, angels are positioned, and the walls that have mocked you for years are about to discover what happens when a chosen one remembers their authority. Shout it, these walls must fall. Say it again, louder, in Jesus' name, these walls must fall. Can you hear that rumbling? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of impossibility crumbling under the weight of your obedience. That's the sound of breakthrough bulldozing through barriers. That's the sound of your Jericho moment arriving right on time. But this shout isn't the end, it's the entrance. Because when these walls fall, you're not just celebrating victory. You're stepping into territory that's been waiting for you to possess it. Are you ready to walk through what used to be a wall? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 unshakable truths with you into tomorrow and every day that follows. First, Remember this, you didn't just survive your test, you conquered it. Every sleepless night, every tear that fell in secret, every moment you wanted to quit, but didn't, that wasn't just endurance, that was victory being forged in the furnace of your faith. You are not the same person who began this journey. You are tested, proven, and approved by heaven itself. Second, the breakthrough you just shouted into existence isn't a one-time event, it's the beginning of a new chapter. When those walls of Jericho fell, Israel didn't stop at one victory. They went on to possess their entire inheritance. Your breakthrough is the first of many, the opening of a door that leads to the fullness of what God has prepared for you. Third, you are marked now. Not with shame, but with the seal of someone who has passed through fire and emerged as gold. That marking changes how you walk, how you speak, how you carry yourself in this world. You are no longer just a survivor, you are an overcomer. But hear me clearly, precious one, you are never walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when new challenges arise, even when doubt tries to whisper its familiar lies, remember that the same God who brought you through your test is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you. Romans 8:28 remains true. All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. And beyond God's presence, you have something beautiful right here, a community that understands your journey. Look around these comments. See these hearts connecting. Feel these spirits resonating. We are not just viewers on a screen, we are family in faith, bonded by the same struggles, strengthened by the same hope, and destined for the same victory. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know you've passed God's test, now that you understand the walls are falling, now that you've tasted the authority of your own breakthrough, shout, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you shrink back into old patterns, or will you walk boldly into the territory God has opened for you? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in this prayer. Right now, wherever you are, place your hand on your heart and let these words wash over your spirit like healing oil. Almighty God, creator of heaven and earth, the one who sees all and knows all, I come before you now carrying every person who has heard this message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you've counted every tear they've cried and recorded every victory they've won. Father, I place my hand on their shoulder right now through these words. Let them feel your presence like a warm embrace. Where they've been broken, begin the healing. Where they've been discouraged, restore their hope. Where they've been afraid, replace fear with faith that moves mountains. God, I pray that you would open doors that no man can shut and close doors that lead to destruction. Give them divine connections, supernatural opportunities, and provision that defies natural explanation. Let their breakthrough become a testimony that encourages others who are still fighting their battles. Strengthen their bodies, sharpen their minds, and set their spirits ablaze with purpose. Surround them with people who see their value and support their calling. Remove every person and situation that would try to pull them backward into old defeats. Lord, let them wake up tomorrow, knowing beyond any shadow of doubt that they are loved, they are chosen, they are equipped, and they are never alone. And when the enemy tries to whisper lies about their worth or their future, let this moment echo in their memory as proof that you have called them, tested them, and found them faithful. In Jesus' mighty name, I release them into their inheritance with confidence, with courage, and with your unshakable peace. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us what shifted in your spirit during this message. What walls are falling in your life? What breakthrough are you stepping into? Don't hold back your testimony. Might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to find their own courage. If this word touched your heart, please hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who need to hear they're not alone in their struggles. And share this message with someone who's been fighting their own Jericho. Sometimes all it takes is one person saying, I believe in your breakthrough, to give someone the strength to shout down their own walls. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for being vulnerable enough to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you today.